If we don't take shelter, we may become resentful and we may blame God. Why me? But it is an opportunity to experience ourselves and demonstrate to others the potency of God's mercy. The difference between a devotee suffering and a non-devotee suffering is that the devotee knows what the suffering is, and he knows what the treatment is, and he is also taking the treatment, whereas the non-devotee don't know anything and is bewildered by the suffering. Both may be in the same position externally, but one's devotee's pain will eventually decrease and get over, while one's non-devotee's pain will increase. People will get surprised to see us joyful and peaceful in our times of misery, because we have taken shelter in God. As said by Shri Priya Mataji, in How My Cancer Became a Blessing, even the suffering of death and the fear of death is transcended by devotees. The problems don't disappear, but it doesn't dominate us. We do what is necessary to get over it, but it doesn't occupy us. It will help us and the upcoming devotees to increase their faith in God. You explained in an earlier answer that we shouldn't have an idealist expectation from our spiritual master. But then we consider him to be a pure devotee. So who is a pure devotee? Is it an idealistic term or a realistic term? Answer. A pure devotee can be known only by God or another pure devotee. We can't know one's heart, but we can see how dedicated one is towards the devotion of God. We should see the dedication for a long time, and then we can choose them as our master. That's good enough for us. We can follow him. He is at a higher level than us, and he is practicing, so by the time we reach his level, he has already gone higher, so he will be able to guide us forward. We shouldn't go into subjective analysis, instead just see if he inspires us or not. Parinasthito pi nirgunya atama sloka lilaya grahita seta rajarsakayanam yadadatavan. O saintly king, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of the pastimes of the Lord, who is described by enlightened verses. SB 2.1.9. This is one my favorite shloka from Bhagavatam. We often wonder is what should we do practically to attain final peace and liberation. We often try intense tapasya, maddening scholarly philosophical studies, or extreme dharma. But we should see how even Shukadevji, who is perfectly situated in transcendence, found the pastimes of the Lord to be more attractive and blissful than being perfectly situated in transcendence. This calls for refocus of our attention in bhakti. The tapasya, the sadhana is all necessary, but we need to focus it all to hearing the katha of Maharaj. Our focus should be to remember Maharaj. That will allow us to understand the glory of God and we will overcome every other desire other than God. Answer. How the law of karma will act in and of itself is difficult to understand. Because there are so many complex and subtle parameters involved that only the God can know the best. When the law of karma interacts with devotional service, then what will happen is even more difficult to predict. Because bhakti herself is interdependent and is guided by Krishna's grace in the ultimate sense. Hence, the only guiding criterion is that Krishna will do which is best for everyone involved. Suppose I have to give a class, and it's a big program and many people are coming. Also, no other speaker is available. And I develop a throat infection. The program has to be cancelled because of it. Then what does it mean? As far as we are concerned, we try to see every situation in a way that helps us advance in devotional service. As a speaker, I should think that actually my body is meant to be used for Krishna's service and I have to do everything possible to take care of it. I have to check that if I have done anything carelessly that possibly could have spoiled my throat. So, at that level I can learn the lesson. At another level I can learn the lesson. If I considered myself as a great speaker and I deliver great lessons while giving classes, then that situation is like spiritually egoistic fantasy. Then I see this situation as an opportunity to realize how powerless I am. I think I'm the speaker, but I can't even move my throat and speak if Krishna doesn't give me the ability to. So ultimately, I have a body which is not independent and it is not under my full control. It is not independent of Krishna. I am dependent on Krishna. Now should I blame Krishna for having spoiled the preaching program? Obviously not. It is probably my own misdeed or because I have become too proud thinking that I am the karta, the doer, and Krishna wanted to purify me of that feeling. So that is Krishna's arrangement to teach me as far as my level of learning is concerned. Same principle applies to the services also. As far as the other people and their inconveniences are concerned, save for the people who have organized the program, and for those who are attending the program, at that time how do I see it? We understand and see that the devotees who have organized, have had to work so hard to arrange this program. Now we have to show Krishna our strong desire for the program to happen, rather than pointing out our finger to anyone in particular. We understand that if we have more intense desire, then Krishna will arrange for his own service to expand. God wants everybody to come back to him. But he also wants us to develop a desire intense enough by which we will go back to him, and then we will become instruments to help others come back to him. Then when some devotional service doesn't work properly, we see it as lacking of our devotional desire. But most often, Srila Prabhupada would look at practical situations in such circumstances. Once the devotees tried hard to organize a Rath Yatra in London, and the Rath cart collapsed. They asked Prabhupada that is it because of our poor devotion? Prabhupada was practical. He said it was because of poor engineering. He said the cart was too big and the wheels were not strong enough to maintain it. So, we don't have to go into the self-demeaning zone that we start mentally flagellating or putting ourselves down for our own inadequacies when things go wrong in our devotion. We have to see what is wrong practically. Srila Prabhupada would see the consciousness of the person and guide him/her accordingly. In general, if we find that some results are not coming out, we should see whether something that I am doing is wrong right now, and maybe I am not preparing properly. Maybe I am not taking adequate care which is required. Hence try to rectify the situation. If beyond the rectification of the situation, things go inadvertently wrong, then we see it as Krishna's orchestration for the ultimate benefit for everyone including me. Still we may say, how can it be? I can't understand that. Srila Prabhupada writes in first canto that when things go wrong beyond human control, then there is nothing to lament over there, and of course we have to be realistic. If we are stretching ourselves beyond our capacities and are likely to not be able to do certain things properly, then it is best that be realistic and prepare for that eventuality. Okay, if I am not able to do this, then how should this go on? So as far as the service dynamics are concerned, as a manager, if we are managing a project, we don't go too much into probing the past karma and karmic consequences over there. If a king, a kshatriya, is supposed to judge a person who has committed a crime, at the immediate level he has to take a remedial action. This person has committed a crime and he has to be punished. But why has he committed the crime? Because my law enforcement agencies were weak. I have to strengthen them. I have to heighten their alertness. These are practical things that a kshatriya has to do. From a Brahmin's point of view, a kshatriya will also be aware of the karmic perspectives. But if a man steals from another man, a kshatriya cannot stay aloof and say it was your karma that you lost the money. No, a kshatriya has to do whatever is required to deal with the situation. The karmic perspective is there in the background of the kshatriya's mind, and the kshatriya focuses on that. Now when in spite of his best efforts nothing happens, then he says, okay, probably it was the past life karma that things have to work in this way. When we are acting as managers, we need to be of kshatriya spirit. Although Srila Prabhupada ultimately says we have to be like Brahmins, and he wanted ISKCON devotees to be Brahmins, but Brahmins in kshatriya spirit. That means we have to be pragmatic in our day-to-day endeavors in Krishna's service. If we look at Srila Prabhupada's example, he did not get success in his service for long. Almost 40 years within India, he preached and he did not get any success. Was it because of his karma? Srila Prabhupada, we know, is a pure devotee, and for him there is no karmic involvement at all. But if we look at how Srila Prabhupada acted, from the historical or objective perspective, Srila Prabhupada always kept looking on for new opportunities where success would come. So he accepted it as the arrangement by Krishna as a result of his karmic reactions. But Srila Prabhupada did not let himself get discouraged. Rather, he kept searching for new avenues to do his service properly. As far as we are concerned, if we look at the way Srila Prabhupada did his own services and he started ISKCON, he always focused more on taking initiatives and finding out opportunities for serving Krishna, rather than resigning himself to the perspective that, oh, because of my past life karma, this is not going to work. Yes, Srila Prabhupada had that attitude that if something didn't work out, then he would say, it was fine, just leave it. Prabhupada started dealing with his devotees in Jhansi and it didn't work out. Then he started something else. Now, there is no description in the Lilamrit, Prabhupada's biography, or any of the biographical works of Srila Prabhupada that he went into the deep post-mortem analysis of whether the Jhansi fiasco was an unsuccessful attempt. Ultimately, any service to Krishna was not a fiasco. But from the material point of view, Prabhupada started it on a grand note and somehow it just went down quite tragically. So from the material point of view, some people might think it as a fiasco. But every attempt to serve Krishna is glorious. Srila Prabhupada did not go into the big post-mortem analysis of what caused it. He focused on what should I do now? Now let me look for some other opportunity to serve Krishna. Hence, in general, if we are giving ourselves in Krishna's service, we also have to be practical and see, what is the best way to serve Krishna in this situation? If I am suspecting that I may have a bad throat, then maybe I have to plan in advance so that I must cut down other engagements so that I will be available to prepare for that program, or I make sure that I arrange for some other speaker. We need to do something practical to make sure that things move on, and if in spite of our practical work, if things don't work out, we understand somehow it is Krishna's plan for the ultimate good of everyone, and we take whatever lessons we can learn at our level and move forward for the future opportunities to serve Krishna as wished by Srila Prabhupada. Taken from Q and a sections of His Holiness Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Why do we have a propensity to abuse rather than use? Answer. It is impossible to have a child without any impressions at all. Generally, our behavior depends on many factors. One of those factors is impressions of past karma. Other factors are upbringing and environment. The child in an orphanage has an environment and upbringing, which is often not good. So certainly, the child doesn't get the love which one would have got by his parents. Similarly, in school, there are more children who will act according to their lower nature than the higher nature, which will rub off on a child. There is always some influence which shapes the child, if positive then positive, and if negative then negative. Generally, why we abuse than use. It is not necessary that everyone has that tendency. Some people are appalled by eating non-veg in spite of being born in families where it is common. Egg Irfan Khan. Such impressions are of the previous life. We can't make absolute judgments, as one can have the noble, charitable and gentle and sober tendencies if the past life was such. So, the past impressions and the current nature and upbringing will have effects, depending on what is stronger. Science doesn't know why a person has a certain genetic makeup. All the factors like upbringing, association and impression of past karmas just shape, but we do have a free